They took a vote, and everyone voted to strike John and his band of MZBs. Several plans were discussed, but no final decision was made about how to do it. A little after noon, everyone agreed to go away and think about it, and they'd get back together after the following morning. Rob was invited to eat lunch at the Turner house, and he graciously accepted. When they were about halfway through their meal, Greg showed up with news from his political contacts. I talked to the people I told you about, and they were thrilled that Rob's willing to run. They want to get together tomorrow afternoon and form a campaign committee. With no power, it's going to be hard to get the word out to the voters, but we think that we have a few ideas that'll work. I also talked to one of the county commissioners, and they came up with a plan for the election. The polls are going to be open on December 9th, 10th, and 11th. Since not too many people have transportation, they're going to use the running school buses to bring the voters to the polls. There aren't enough buses to do it all in one day, so they're going to do it over 3 days. What are they going to do for ballots? Jess asked. They're still working on that. The biggest concern they have is making sure that everyone who's eligible to vote knows about the election. Then why don't they just put the election off until they can be sure all the voters know? Abby asked. The county commissioner I talked to said they considered that, Greg explained. They feel we need to have a properly elected sheriff as soon as possible, since the office of sheriff is the most recognized and depended on office in county government. That doesn't give us much time, Rob said. Don't worry. I'm sure the best man will win, Jess said with a smile. After lunch, Jim and Lisa cornered Mark and Jess. We want to talk to you about something important, Jim started. Mark was concerned they'd figured out George's secret. The old farmer was hardly eating anything, and he'd lost a considerable amount of weight in the last month. His clothes just hung on him like an old scarecrow. What is it? Jess asked. We've been talking about it, and we want to adopt Susan's boys, Lisa said. I know it may not be permanent if their father shows back up, but who knows what's going to happen with the way things are right now. At least they'll be in a family for the time being. I know Susan and I were often at odds, Jim explained, but that doesn't mean I didn't respect the job she did, raising the boys mostly by herself. We've always wanted to have sons to go along with our daughters, and we want to help out if we can. Lisa and I talked to them earlier and asked them if it would be okay if we looked after them for a while. They agreed, but we wanted to get your blessing too. I think Susan would be honored and grateful if you would look after her boys, Jess said with a smile. I agree, Mark said. Where will you put them? There's not really room in your camper, is there? We can fit. It'll be a little tight, but we'll get by. Compared to the people still living in tents, we're lucky, Lisa said. Why wouldn't you just move into Susan's house? Jess asked. There's no reason to make the boys move. It'll be easier for them to adjust if they're in familiar surroundings. Don't you think that might cause problems with some of the people in the neighborhood? Lisa asked. I don't know why. The house technically belongs to the boys. If you're taking care of them, I don't see how anyone could say anything about it, Mark answered. We don't want anyone to think we're doing this just so we can move into Susan's house, Jim said. Don't worry about that. People are going to think what people are going to think. You know you're doing it for the right reasons, and that is all that counts, Jess said in a voice that ended the conversation.